We ranked 12 of the most popular office chairs based solely on their arm comfort and adjustments. We're going to kick it off with the Steelcase Gesture. Ryan, what do you think?
This one's coming in pretty hot. You can't find arms that are going to be much better than the Gesture, in my opinion. The most adjustable arms I've seen. The pads are super nice. You're going to be able to put these basically in any spot that you'd want. So for me, this is going to be clear S tier. I don't see you improving too much on a set of arms.
Yeah, I mean, I think that these are without question the most rangy armrests out there. That's how they designed them at Steelcase. You can have a cell phone in your hands and have proper support. You can get them out of the way if you want to use something like a guitar. And the pads, while they're not super soft, I think they're adequate for what they are. I love them. S tier all day.
I'm actually going to go down to an A. I still love these arms, like the guy said. They're super adjustable. Pads are really comfy, but I still think there are chairs that I like better. So that's why I'm going to knock this down to an A. I just wish they didn't move as much, like when you're kind of trying to move around in the chair. So this is going to be an A.
Still an S, though.
Yeah, I mean, if you've been watching us, this is going to make people happy. We got an S tier right out of the gate.
Yeah, right out of the gate.
So Realm of Thrones, Robert, this is an interesting chair, right? This is kind of like some play off of the Gesture. What do you think?
Ooh, so it's going for that huge adjustability like the Gesture, but that doesn't mean that it's an A or S. I actually dropped this down to an F, okay? And I know you guys are probably shocked. The reason is the arms on the Realm of Thrones are just way too high for me. So they're pushing my shoulders up. We just recently did a video, tips to be comfortable in your chair. And if your arms are too high, your shoulders are gonna be pushed up and it's just really uncomfortable, can cause back problems. I would not be able to sit in this chair.
I got to defend the Realm of Thrones here. I don't think it's F tier. I think that the dual pivot adjustment action is a pretty cool concept. I don't think that it really works as well as they intended because there are quite a few positions you can't put them in just because the arm caps themselves don't move very freely. I had this in the C tier range just because I do think they have pretty good adjustment for what you're getting, and I thought the pads were decently soft, so just kind of a well-rounded arm, but nothing too impressive for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a C tier. I think Robert's a little aggressive on that, but I get it. It's to each their own for sure. I think the pads are definitely on the firm side. It doesn't really have like a good depth adjustment to it, which is really bizarre because they go way forward and then they go into more of like a neutral position, what you'd expect from an office chair. But that dual action is pretty wild. It really puts the arms way out in front of you for what tasks, I'm not sure. I mean, for the price point, they're not bad. So C tier.
C tier. Fern chair. You want to start us off with the Fern?
The Fern is an interesting one to me because when I got in the chair at first, I noticed right away these remind me of a Steelcase Leap 4-way arm set, which I absolutely love, and so that gave it a boost right away. Now the only drawback for me is the fact that they feel a little bit flimsy compared to the Leap, and the arm pads aren't quite as soft, but they've got a ton of range. I can get comfortable in almost every position, including recline, which is a miss for a lot of chairs. I'm going A tier on this.
Yeah, I'm also an A here. I like how the arms recline with you. Greg said that right at the end there. When you lean back, the arms follow, so you're not feeling like you have kind of like arms pushed in a different position or you don't have a gap there at all. They just kind of float back with you, which I really like. They also have a nice curve, kind of rounded edges to them, and very nice padding on the pads. So, yeah, that's an A.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys. I'd go A+ here. If the pads were a little bit softer and a little bit more sturdy, more like a Herman Miller or a Steelcase chair, this would easily be S tier arms, but either way, great pair of arms, A+. A across the board.
I'm curious if we're going to agree on this one. The IKEA Jarvfjallet, which I guess it's an IKEA chair with some adjustment to the arms.
Yeah, I'm going straight F tier on this. The armrests don't do much in terms of adjustment, not a very good range. The caps are tiny, and they are literally rock-hard plastic. So these are just super uncomfortable arms. I'd probably prefer to use the chair without the arms, so this is F tier for me.
I would 100% agree with that statement, that this is a chair that I would just go without the arms, and I would never recommend that for anyone, but if you had this chair, they're terrible. They are hard plastic, and they will fit probably 3% of people, so F tier for me.
Yeah, I mean, it also has the same problem where the arms are just too high. So they just like pushing your shoulders up. So this is, we were suggested that we could have a G tier for garbage. So this would be our G tier. If you recline back, there's this massive gap. Your arms don't have any place to go. So
we don't have G on the tier list, Robert. Maybe a little heads up next time.
Yeah, we'll just go F. That's good.
Back to another good one here. Steelcase Leap chair. For me, this is going to be easy S tier. I don't think that you're going to be able to get too much more out of a set of arm pads other than like the gesture with the cantilever design, which gives you that extra width and height range. But the Leap's arms are amazing. I could argue that they're better than the gesture arms just because they feel a little bit more solid and I like the pads a little bit better. This is easy S tier for me.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. I'm with Ryan there where I would argue that they are better than the gesture for those same reasons. They stay in place a little bit better than the gesture in my opinion. And I did a nice side-by-side kind of cushion test. The pads are softer on the Leap, I found. So I would take the Leap arms over the gesture, putting the Leap in the S tier for me. They don't follow back with you when you recline because they're connected to the seat, but it doesn't matter as much because the adjustability is so big there and your arms just are always falling in a comfortable spot. So these are an S.
Yeah, the only drawback I think to these arms compared to the other S tier for what we've got up there right now is just they're not quite as rangy. And for me, not a big deal just because I don't really take full advantage of that with the gesture. I know some people might, but I love them. I mean, like Robert said, they're a little bit softer than the gesture. They've got a ton of range on the actual pad adjustment and they feel really solid. The only maybe drawback is when they're fully extended, they're not as stable as they are when they're mid to low points, but I'm going S tier on this. These are my favorite arms of all chairs for sure.
That's at the top, triple S.
Mm-hmm.
Switching it up a little bit to the Mellet, to the knockoff. So what do we think? How do the knockoff arms compare to the real arms?
The funny thing about this chair is that while it's like the closest thing to a Leap chair from like a mechanism standpoint and some of like how it moves, the arms aren't. I mean, they're just so different than the Leap. Like with the Leap, when you recline, you've got good support all the way through recline. These have a massive gap. I don't think they have any depth adjustment to them.
They have width, pivot, and height.
They have depth. No depth. And so that's the big drawback there that you can't get them fit to you. I'm going to go C tier here on this one just because I think there's a lot of room for improvement on fit, especially for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of between a C and a D here. I actually picked this chair as my favorite chair under $300. So don't let these bad arms scare you away. I still think this is a good buy, but they're hard pads. You know, they're really tough to even get any kind of press in them. So same problem with that recline. When you recline back, you just have this huge gap. They don't follow back with you at all. And because of the small amount of adjustability, they're just not going to fit everyone great. Don't let that take you away from the chair completely, but the arms are probably the worst part about this chair.
The Mellet is interesting because it's only like a $200 chair. And if we think about a $200 chair, the arms are pretty amazing for a $200 chair. They go pretty low and they go decently high, 3 types of adjustment, and the arm pads aren't rock solid. So for the price, I think the arms are actually really good. It's one of the reasons why we recommend the chair. But when you're in a list with Steelcase and Herman Miller and stuff, it's really hard to perform. And so I'd have this at a C-, maybe a D+. We'll go low C. Low C. Be over here.
So I'm going to kick this one off. Aeron S tier arms. It's no surprise. I love this chair if you've watched any of our videos, and the arms are one of its best features. These are just the most cushioned arms, definitely on this list, probably the best in our whole office. They're just really soft to the touch, soft padded when you push down on them. Biggest downside, the adjustability isn't as big as some of the other chairs in this list, but once you get them in place, they stay where you want them, and for me, they fit me perfectly. So this is an S.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say these are some of the softest arm pads I've had on any chair, and we've had hundreds of chairs in here. So, yeah, they're just really squishy and comfy. So if that's what you're looking for, I could see it being S tier all day. I think there's a good enough range of adjustment for me to fit comfortably. I mean, I don't have a problem sitting in the B with width. It doesn't have width adjustment. It has depth and a pivot and a height. The reason why I don't give this an S tier is purely because the height adjustment is a pain in the butt to use, and I do make height adjustment changes depending how I'm sitting in my chair. It's hard to get them in the same height. You kind of got to mess around with them a little bit. If it was as easy as the depth adjustment and the pivot, I'd go S tier all day.
Yeah, I'm going to be actually with Robert on this one. I think these arms are amazing. I don't miss any adjustability that you would get from the Leap or the gesture. I think the pivot serves kind of as a dual adjustment, as a pivot and a width adjustment. The depth range is amazing to stay with you through the whole recline or to keep them out of the way of your desk or keyboard tray. The height range for me is also amazing. You can lower them far enough to get out of the way or put them super high to use with a phone or something. And like these guys have touched on, the pads are the most comfortable pads I've ever used. So for me, this is easy S tier. We got 2 S's though. This is the most S tiers we've ever had in a list.
And we followed up with a Secret Lab Titan.
Listen, the Titan, in my opinion, aside from the pillow, the armrests are the next best thing on the Titan. I just wish that they had a little bit bigger ranges on their adjustments. They did a really nice job of giving you a few adjustments, height, depth, width, but they're not very big. And so for me, they don't go low enough and they don't quite go back far enough. So I have to take away some points there, but the arm pads are ridiculously comfortable, flat design. I really like those. So I'd be somewhere around a C, C+ with these.
I love the fact that they made them replaceable, making it easy enough for people who kind of chew up their arm pads on a regular basis to swap them out. And they're not something that doesn't hold in place well. Like when they're locked in, they're locked in. So I like that. And I like the softness as well. Ryan is 100% correct, though, with the fit being an issue. More specifically for me, it's the width. They're just a little too wide. There's just not enough range there. I don't know. I think that's a huge miss for me because I can't get as comfortable as I want. I'm going B+ on this.
I'm right there as well with a B on this. Really nice cushioning on the pads, above average in my opinion. Adjustability is not quite there, so that's why it's not higher. I do really want to try out, they have the Secret Lab Plush Sayl. It's essentially their memory foam type cushion, so we might have to check those out and give those a rating in the future.
So was that 2 Bs and a C?
Yeah.
Oh, this is unexpected.
I think we'll find out that the branch Ergonomic isn't that unexpected.
All right. Well,
I mean, it's a fairly basic chair with basic armrests. I don't think that they blow me away by any stretch of the imagination. The padding's okay. The adjustments are very limited. The chair really doesn't fit me that well from the arms standpoint. And when you recline in the chair, they're non-existent. There's a massive gap when you're using this chair. I'm going to go a D on these.
I'm right there with you. All the same reasons. The pads to me aren't very comfortable, a little too firm, and they just don't adjust to support you really anywhere for me. I can't sit up and work upright, and they don't support me while I'm reclined. They're a little too wide, so I'm right there. D.
Yeah, I'm also a D. I found these to be almost the hardest arm pad of any of them. You can barely push into them at all. They also have kind of the weird width adjustment that's underneath the seat, which is just, it's kind of awkward to get to it. So if you were going to do that often, it's just, you're going to have to always be searching for where that adjustment is. This is another chair that I still kind of recommend because of its price range, but the arms are probably the worst part about it. So these are not a very comfortable arm pad.
Haworth Soji. What do you think, Ryan?
I actually like the Soji arms, especially for the price. They got some softness to them, good adjustability. I wish that they came back a little bit farther so that they could support me better through the recline, but it's not a super expensive chair, and I do think that it can kind of compete with the upper end chairs. I'd probably give this a B, maybe a B+, that range.
That's not a bad thing for this chair, being that it's like $500.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of the best values out there from a ergonomic chair from a major brand, or even really just kind of across the entire industry. But when you look at the arm pads themselves, I think they got good softness to them. They got pretty good range. The biggest miss for me, they just feel a little bit flimsy. And when you recline in the chair, they don't have that support that you'd want all the way through. And like Ryan said, just needs a bit more depth adjustment. So I think B+ is fair.
Yeah, I went with a B too. I wanted to go higher. I really like the look of these arm pads. I like the style, kind of how they have the sloped edges. I just think they look really nice on the chair, kind of give it a more high-end look, even though this is more of a mid-tier chair. But yeah, the pads just aren't super soft. That would probably boost them up even higher, but I'll give them a B.
B across the board.
All right, OMS, Robert, what do you think?
So this one's a little more difficult. We got a couple different arm options for this chair. I actually sat in the OM Affirm chair quite a bit with the KM445 arms, okay? So these are the same arms you can get on the Yes chair, and these are just under the Aeron for me for padding. So these are one of the most padded soft pad on armrests. So if you purchase that selection, they are a little more expensive, but you're gonna get some great adjustability on those arm pads and some really good padding. Problem, and this knocks me down at least a full stop on these, is they're really wobbly. So these arm pads, because they're very adjustable, interchangeable, you can order different arm pads. Because of that, they just have tons of movement, tons of wobble in the arm pad, and that just really bugs me, and it kind of almost makes that chair unusable for me. So I want to give the arm pads like an A, but because of that shakiness, it's like maybe down to a C.
Yeah, I couldn't really sum it up any better than that. The arm pads themselves standalone are good. You're getting four-way adjustment, good range, both on the low and high end, and I like the width adjustment. And I can actually move them front and back and have them support me through the entire range. And the pads themselves are really good. It's just the point where they connect just makes them a bit wobbly, so I'd have to pull them down to a B.
Yeah, I got the KR465s as my favorite on those. Those are the ones that are on it right now. A little bit different than Robert's, but still a ton of adjustment range. I mean, they fit me pretty much through all the different adjustments. Softness is good on them. Everybody said exactly what it is, but the problem is the clankiness of them. They just feel a little bit cheap, and they're not quite as solid feeling as these other chairs. So I would normally go A, but I'm going B.
There we go. Wrapping it up, what do we got here? Finishing it off with the Herman Miller Sayl.
Sayl arm pads have a really nice cushion. They have a little bit of a different shape. The Sayl chair has all these kind of straight lines, that kind of triangular, very kind of edgy looking. And then the shape of the arm pad is just this kind of round oval. So I don't love the look of these arm pads. They do have some nice points though, where they kind of recline. They follow with you, so that's a positive for them. I kind of go back and forth with these arms. I'm going to give them a B just because they do have pretty good cushioning. I like how they recline with you, but they get a little bit downgraded because I don't love the look of them.
They're not as soft as the Aeron pads, but they have a really good range on them, and I think they'll fit most people well. I think all of us probably fit in that chair well with the arms, and they have enough softness that I don't have any issues or like pressure points with them. I think it's a good value from Herman Miller, and while they maybe feel a little bit cheaper than the Aerons just because they move and wobble just a tiny touch just because of how adjustable they are, I still got to go A tier on these.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely a downgrade from quality standpoint compared to the Embody, the Aeron, the Mira, but from a functional standpoint, they do it all. You're getting 4-way adjustment. They're soft. They have huge ranges on the low and high end. You can get them completely out of the way. So for me, this is easy A tier as well. I really like these arms. They might not look the best for the chair, but that's not really something that I always focus on. So for me, functionality-wise, comfort-wise, A tier, definitely. So put it right there. Yeah. Pretty well-rounded list there.
I think it's pretty good. You guys got to let us know if we made the right selections here on this. Quite a few S tier. That's got to make everyone happy, I think. Thanks for watching.